On May 10, 2006, a woman named Santhama was on her way home from the local panchayat office in Anchal, Kerala. She had just finished filing official documents for her newborn twin granddaughters. But what should have been a simple day turned into something no one could ever prepare for. The moment she stepped through the front door, she came face to face with a scene that would forever alter the course of her life. Inside her own home, her daughter Ranjini, along with her two baby granddaughters, were gone, in the most unthinkable way. Who could possibly hold such deep resentment against Ranjini? And what kind of person would wish harm on two innocent babies? Today's story unravels the mystery behind a triple homicide that stunned the state of Kerala. But what makes this case especially remarkable is that it became the first in India's history to use artificial intelligence, AI, to solve a cold case. Ranjini, a 21-year-old woman living in the town of Akan, Kollam district, Kerala, had grown up there. Her life had been quiet, ordinary, and relatively content. In that same town lived a man named Jinvi Kumar, a young soldier stationed in the area. He was her neighbor, and over time the two grew close. What began as a casual friendship slowly deepened. As weeks turned to months, Ranjini found herself falling in love. At the time, she was only 20, young, hopeful, and entirely swept up in the excitement of her first real relationship. To her, being with Jinvi felt magical. She was all in, emotionally, mentally, even physically. Their relationship grew more intimate as their bond deepened. Though they weren't married, their closeness was undeniable. Ranjini believed with all her heart that no one could ever come between them. For a while, everything felt perfect, until one day, everything changed. When Ranjini discovered she was pregnant, she was overwhelmed with joy. She believed this would bring her and Jinvi closer, that they were entering a new chapter of life together. She imagined them raising their child as a family. But when she told him the news, his reaction shattered her completely. Instead of joy or support, Jinvi responded coldly. He told her plainly that the baby could not be born, that she needed to terminate the pregnancy. No discussion, Ranjini refused. She stood firm, telling him that she wasn't going to end the pregnancy. She believed he had to take responsibility. This was his child too, but rather than support her or stand by her side, Jinvi distanced himself. Feeling the pressure, he left Kerala and returned to his military base in Patan, Punjab, leaving Ranjini to face everything alone. Still, she wouldn't give up. Ranjini believed she was doing the right thing. This was her child, her flesh and blood, and she would never give up. It was a bold decision. And for a young woman in India, unmarried, pregnant, and abandoned, it was one that came with enormous personal cost. But Ranjini chose to hold on to what was most precious, her faith in herself, and her love for her child. Ranjini was still so young, left behind by the man she believed would stand by her, the one she once thought loved her most. And to go through that in a place like India? That takes more courage than most people realize. You see, in many parts of Indian society, being an unmarried pregnant woman still carries a heavy stigma. It's not just difficult, it's a daily battle for dignity and survival. Society can be harsh. People stare, they gossip, they question your morals, your family, your entire upbringing. If you've ever watched Indian films or read news stories about these situations, you already know the judgment can be cruel, especially when the father is nowhere to be found. But in Ranjini's case, she didn't let that shame define her. She chose to fight for her children. With the support of the Kerala State Women's Commission, Ranjini filed an official request for a DNA test, demanding that Divil Kumar take responsibility for the pregnancy. The plan was to serve him the notice whenever he returned from his military posting in Patan, Punjab. That DNA request would later become a pivotal piece of the case. As the days passed, Ranjini's due date drew closer. She and her mother, Santhama, made arrangements to travel to a hospital in Thiruvananthapuram, the capital of Kerala, for the delivery, and it was there In that hospital corridor, that they met a man named Rayesh. Rayesh introduced himself casually, mentioning that he was also from Kollam, their hometown. That simple detail put both women at ease. He was polite, thoughtful, and always willing to help, offering to fetch water, run errands, or assist the nurses. He had a warm smile and a calm presence. And after everything they'd been through, that kindness felt like a gift. The more time they spent around him, the more they trusted him. He said he'd be willing to donate blood for Ranjini if she needed it during her C-section. He even said they had matching blood types, to Santhama and Ranjini. This man felt like a blessing, someone who showed up at exactly the right moment, a stranger who offered hope during a dark, uncertain time. You've probably experienced something like this yourself. That moment when you're vulnerable and someone steps in, showing you kindness. It makes you feel safe, makes you want to open up. And that's exactly what Ranjini did. She told him everything about her relationship with Divil, about the betrayal, about the deep love she once had, and the heartbreak that followed. May 10, 2006. Santhama was returning home from the Panchayat office. She had just completed the official registration process for her twin granddaughters, Ranjini's newborns. But when she arrived at the house, something was off. The door was slightly ajar. The air felt still, and what she saw inside would change her life forever. Her daughter, Ranjini, and the two infants, the very children she had just been filing paperwork for, were gone. There were no sounds, no movement, only stillness. The question echoed again, louder this time. Who could do something like this? Who could carry such hatred for a woman, and for two children who had just barely begun to live? At the hospital, Ranjini gave birth to twin daughters, two tiny, fragile lives who came into the world under heavy clouds, but brought light to their mother's eyes soon after. Anand, whose real name was Rayesh, though no one knew that yet, offered to help Ranjini and her mother find a new place to live. He explained that it would be safer to move into a rented house away from their neighborhood. People were asking too many questions, too many whispers behind their backs, and Ranjini believed him. She had become a mother without being married, and in a conservative society like theirs, judgment came quick and harsh. The idea of a fresh start, where no one knew their names or their story, felt like relief. Santhama, her mother, agreed. So, without hesitation, they went straight from the hospital to the house Rayesh had arranged. It was May 10, 2006 by now. Rayesh had gained Ranjini and Santhama's full trust. He had been kind, generous, helpful, and that trust? It gave him exactly what he needed, because Rayesh wasn't working alone. His plan had always included someone else, his old friend Divil Kumar, the same man who had once loved Ranjini and walked away when she needed him most. That day, once Santhama stepped out to the Panchayat office, just for a short time, Rayesh and Divil acted. They entered the house, quiet, swift, and what they did inside that home, it ended 3 lives and left a family in pieces. When Santhama returned, she walked into something no parent, no grandparent, should ever have to see. The silence hit her first. Then came the shock. Her daughter, her 2 baby granddaughters, gone in that moment. Everything fell apart. These were the children she had fought for, protected, even when Divil wanted nothing to do with them. She had stood by her daughter's side through shame, through struggle, through judgment. And now they were lying there, lifeless, and all her pain, all her sacrifice, all her hope meant nothing anymore. Santhama collapsed, but not for long. Somehow, she found the strength to get up, to breathe, to walk. She went straight to the nearest police station and reported what had happened. The investigation began immediately. At the crime scene, officers found a vehicle parked nearby. When they ran the license plate, it came back registered to Rayesh. That was their first solid lead. They also reached out to the military base in Patan, Punjab, trying to locate Divil Kumar. But by then, both men were gone. No one had seen them. No one knew where they'd gone. For a while, The case seemed open and shut. The suspects were named. The motive was clear. But finding them? That was a different story, despite their best efforts. The police couldn't track either man down. Days turned into months, months into years, and eventually, the file was closed, the case was marked cold. People stopped talking about it, and a brutal, deeply personal crime faded into the shadows. But imagine this. You're a mother. You've lost your daughter. You've lost your grandchildren. And now there's no justice, no closure, no answers for Santhama. The silence from authorities only deepened her grief. She had done everything she could, and still, she had nothing. Unsolved crimes for 19 years, and for 19 years, the men responsible disappeared without a trace, or so it seemed for years. The triple homicide in Kerala faded into silence, forgotten, buried beneath the weight of time and other crimes. But then something changed. The case took a sudden and unexpected turn. You've probably heard that old saying, in the house of God, justice may be delayed, but never denied. And that's exactly what happened here. At the local police department, like many around the world, there were dozens of cold cases files that had been collecting dust for years. But sometimes, a fresh set of eyes or a new piece of technology breathes life back into them. Enter Mano Abraham, the Additional General of Police, AGP, for Kerala. During a review of old unsolved files, he came across an old photograph dated back to 2006. In it were two men faces that had once haunted a mother's memory, Jin and Reyes. Mano handed the photo to his technical intelligence team. This time, they weren't just looking through files, they were using artificial intelligence. The team enhanced and age-progressed the photos essentially using AI to predict what these men might look like nearly 2 decades later. What started as faded, younger faces were now turned into digital sketches of middle-aged men. Then came the scan, using social media image-matching tools. The AI began combing through thousands of public photos online. You've seen similar features in apps like Snapchat that let you change your age with filters, except this was on a much more sophisticated, forensic level. Match rates came back slowly, 10%, 20%, then suddenly 90%. One image stood out. It came from a Facebook post, uploaded by a woman on her wedding day. In the background, a man named Pravin Kumar was captured, smiling in the frame, but when officers zoomed in, it was unmistakable. It was Reyes. The Kerala police quickly alerted the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI. The CBI, in turn, contacted law enforcement in Pondicherry, and not long after, Pravin Kumar, aka Reyes, was taken into custody. And as soon as Reyes was arrested, the net tightened around Jin as well. He was found and arrested shortly after. During questioning, investigators discovered that the two had been living under new identities for 19 years. They had quietly restarted their lives in Pondicherry, working as interior designers, marrying local school teachers, and blending in seamlessly with everyday life. Reyes had assumed the name Pravin Kumar. Jin was now Vishnu. And yet, they had once abandoned a young woman and taken the lives of her newborn daughters, children who were just 17 days old, and for nearly 2 decades, they lived as though nothing had happened, like that chapter had been erased. They had families of their own now, a new home, a new start, but justice has a long memory. Thanks to the precision of artificial intelligence and the persistence of a dedicated police force, this case, once considered unsolvable, was reopened, and this time, it ended with accountability. A case that once seemed completely forgotten was reopened after 19 years, and at last, justice was served.